Hey guys, tonight we huddle deep into a crooked wooden hut somewhere in medieval Europe. The air outside is biting cold, and the wind slips through the cracks like a thief. You're barefoot, of course, and the ground beneath you isn't even wood, just packed mud laced with frost. Your breath clouds in front of your face, and you already know this night's going to be long, and probably a little itchy. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop a comment with your location and the local time you're watching, especially if you're tucked in with socks on. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is how absolutely uninsulated everything feels. The door creaks shut behind you, but a wind still manages to snake around your ankles. There's no fireplace here, just a pit of ash and the faint smell of something charred long ago. You shuffle across the dirt floor, careful not to slip on the frost that's settled in near the edges. Your bed is a pile of straw in a burlap sack. There's no mattress, obviously. There are no sheets. If you're lucky, there's a moth-bitten wool blanket, stiff from use and clinging to the scent of damp sheep. You plop down into it, and the cold seeps through instantly. You can practically feel your spine bargaining with you. Historians still argue whether medieval homes were really this bleak, or whether some villages had clever ways of insulating floors with straw mats and woven reeds. But for the common peasant, it's safe to say that heating systems were mostly just wishful thinking. You wiggle your toes to keep them awake. There's no such thing as socks in this hut, unless someone's mother stitched them from leftover linen strips, and even then, they'd barely last a winter. And underwear? Forget it. Most peasants went without, especially men. What's the point of an extra garment when laundry means breaking ice in a bucket? Now here's a fun fact. Some families actually spread ashes on the floor to keep it dry and reduce the stink. So yes, you're walking around on what is essentially historical kitty litter. Add a few stray goat droppings and maybe someone's dropped spoon, and you've got a nice earthy floor stew to greet your toes every morning. Still, life goes on. You settle onto your straw bundle, pulling a rough wool wrap around your shoulders. Someone across the hut sneezes into a bundle of rags. Another coughs in their sleep. The air smells like turnips, smoke, and something vaguely alive. Probably the dog, hopefully. And despite it all, you close your eyes, because there's work tomorrow, and cold or not, dawn always comes. You wake up to the sound of someone breaking ice off a water bucket with the back of a wooden spoon. There's no alarm clock in sight, just the creak of the roof, the grunt of a cow, and the unmistakable whimper of your joints protesting another night of sleeping on straw. Your hands are numb, your feet are stiffer than old bread, and yes, your linen shirt is frozen in spots. So, how do you survive the rest of the day? The answer: layers, improvisation, and just enough wool to avoid hypothermia, but never enough to feel fully human. You slide on your second tunic. It's scratchy, smells faintly of pickled cabbage, and has at least 3 mystery stains you've stopped trying to explain. Underneath, just your skin. Because for most medieval peasants, underwear wasn't just a luxury, it was impractical. It required extra cloth, extra washing, and extra time. And you're already late feeding the pigs. To compensate, you pile on everything you own. Layered linen shirts, patched wool leggings, a borrowed hood, and maybe, just maybe, a cloak if the rats didn't chew through it last season. No one cares if it matches. Fashion doesn't exist here unless you count not freezing to death as a trend. Now here's the quirky part. People sometimes stuffed their clothing with straw or moss as makeshift insulation. Yup, you've just become a walking scarecrow with a pulse. And while it crinkles a bit when you walk, it does keep the wind from slicing through your thighs. Historians still debate whether peasants ever wore fur, or if that was strictly for nobles and churchmen. But there are enough tales of accidentally borrowed pelts to raise a suspicious eyebrow. One story tells of a stable boy who slept inside a gutted sheep carcass for warmth. Extreme? Yes. Effective? Also yes. You wrap a strip of cloth around your feet. Not proper socks, but better than nothing. Your shoes, if you can call them that, are just stitched leather with a thin sole, barely protecting you from mud, ice, and the occasional sharp rock. You once tried doubling up layers of cloth inside. It worked, until it rained, and you spent the day squishing. And yet, the community adapts. People warm stones by the hearth and carry them under cloaks like prehistoric hot water bottles. Children are tucked into hay beds with cabbage leaf foot wraps. A neighbor once tried to heat sand in a pan and pour it into cloth pouches until he burned through his mattress. You check your reflection in a tin spoon just to make sure your nose hasn't frozen off, and head outside. The wind greets you with open claws. You brace yourself and mutter the peasant's winter prayer. May my fingers stay on until supper. Because whether you're working in a field, fixing a fence, or chasing a runaway chicken, one thing's certain: layers are survival. Underwear? That's just fluff for royalty. You're back inside before noon. Not because your chores are done, but because the wind has started to bite. Not nip, not tug, bite. Your fingertips sting. Your nose drips like a leaky roof, and even the cows are giving you side-eye from under their frosty eyelashes. Inside the hut, the family huddles near the fire pit. And by fire, we mean a few embers clinging to life beneath last night's half-burned logs. Someone's blowing into them with desperate hope, while another tosses in a handful of dried moss to coax it along. Smoke curls up into the air, then settles directly into your face. Ah yes, medieval heating, the ultimate smoky hug. Contrary to fantasy novels, not every home had a grand fireplace. Most peasants made do with a central fire pit and a smoke hole in the roof, if that. The result? The inside of your hut smells like a bonfire, and the walls are coated in soot. But it's warmish, if you sit close. And don't move. You claim a spot and wedge yourself in between a snoring uncle and a goose with attitude. This is not personal space, it's survival geometry. Now, here's a weird one. In some areas, families kept heated stones wrapped in cloth to slip under their cloaks or into their straw beds. Others used warming pans, metal trays filled with hot coals, and slid under bedding. Sounds fancy, right? Unfortunately, peasants mostly got the stone version, and sometimes a scorched blanket to go with it. Someone passes you a bowl of stew. You think it's stew. It's beige, vaguely warm, and possibly yesterday's bread boiled in water with a turnip. You sip. It's terrible. You love it. Historians still argue whether communal fire pits were effective or just symbolic, more psychological than physical. The idea being, if you think you're warmer, maybe your body won't file a complaint. One child curls up with the family dog, who doubles as both heater and footrest. Another peasant presses their feet to the side of a clay jug filled with warm water. That is, until it cracks. Cue mild chaos and everyone's feet getting wet. You shift closer to the embers. The back of your tunic now smells like burnt wool, and your toes are dangerously close to actual blistering. But hey, that's warmth. In small doses. You glance at the roof and wonder if snow will fall through it tonight. Thatch isn't waterproof after all, and the last time it snowed inside, it took 3 days for your hay bedding to dry. Still, for a moment you feel okay. Huddled with the rest, sharing warmth, passing around gossip and the occasional boiled bean. No underwear? No problem. You're practically glowing, with smoke and a little frostbite. Because here, in this smoky circle of survival, fire isn't just heat, it's community. And you're lucky if you can snag a spot near it. By the time night creeps back in, the hut smells like a combination of sweat, smoke, and slightly burnt root vegetables. The sun has dipped below the trees, and once again, it's time to crawl into your not even remotely cozy bed and try not to shiver your way into dawn. You drag over a bundle of straw and pat it into the rough shape of a mattress. It's itchy. It pokes you in places you didn't know had nerves. And yes, there are probably insects living in there. You lie down anyway. Tonight, like most nights in winter, you'll share this bed with someone. Maybe a sibling, a cousin, or even a chicken. That's not a joke. Chickens radiate heat, and in the dead of winter, snuggling with one isn't weird. It's smart. Some households even kept pigs indoors on the colder nights. One underfoot pig equals one free space heater. And if you've ever spooned a snoring farm animal, you know they're warmer than most blankets. You wrap yourself in your scratchy cloak and pull it up to your chin. There's no pillow, so you roll up your tunic and stuff it under your neck. The roof creaks overhead, and something scuttles in the rafters. You try not to think about it. Now here's a fringe practice. Some medieval folks believed that sleeping with onions or garlic under their straw bedding would keep the chill and evil spirits at bay. It didn't, but at least it masked the smell of damp hay and unwashed feet. Historians still debate whether these odd traditions had real cultural roots or were just desperate superstitions passed down through generations. Either way, tonight you're tempted to try anything, maybe even a raw onion blanket. You glance around the hut. Most people are already asleep or faking it to avoid being asked to go outside for one last chore. The fire is little more than a dull glow, casting long shadows on the mud-caked walls. Someone coughs. Someone else lets out a sleepy groan. And you? You can't stop adjusting the one remaining warm stone near your feet. It's cold. Really cold. But slowly, your body accepts it. Your breath steadies, and your limbs melt into the straw. You count chickens instead of sheep. Somewhere nearby, someone mumbles in their sleep. It sounds like, "Where are my socks?" But you know that's a fantasy. Still, the human body is stubborn. Even without layers of fancy wool or cozy pajamas, or, underwear, it finds a way to rest. You close your eyes, tuck your hands under your arms, and let the cold fade into background noise. Because in this world of hay beds, moss padding, smoky fire pits, and chicken cuddle buddies, comfort is a rare but precious thing. And tonight, you've done just enough to earn a few warmish hours of sleep. So now as the fire dies to its final ember and the last cluck from the chickens quiets down, you sink deeper into that lumpy straw bed, itchy, but somehow familiar. The cold no longer bites. It just lingers around you like a stubborn cat. Your breath comes slower, softer. You shift your weight one last time, tuck your knees close, and feel the warmth from the stone finally catch. The hut groans in the wind, but it's a gentle kind of groan now, like the world is settling in beside you. Everyone's asleep, even the goose, and that's saying something. You made it through another medieval winter day, underfed, underdressed, but undeterred, all without underwear. Impressive. So don't worry about the cracked roof or the weird itch in your sockless foot. Just close your eyes, let the fire's glow float in your mind, and drift off, like smoke through a thatched ceiling.